In to order. Let's see, let's go to the agenda for today. You can pull that up. Screen, I can pull it up.
Roll call.
And then we do the roll call first, and then minutes.
Roll call. Commissioner Walton. Commissioner Rana is absent. Commissioner Herr. Commissioner St. John.
Here.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Here.
And Vice Chair Woodson.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have a moment of silence. Would somebody like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today? Okay, thank you. If everybody could please stand. We have our moment of silence in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 4 on the agenda today is any special announcements or communications from the floor. So these, I think most important one here is announcements, special events or meeting for the public. I do not, do we have anything? And no. Okay. If there are any announcements from the floor and the public that you would like to make that are not pertinent to one of the agenda items on the consent agenda today, is there anybody who would have a comment that they would like to make today? It's a silent crowd, but welcome. And I didn't get a chance to do that. So welcome everybody who's here. I think we have as many here tonight as we've had in the last, well, no, not 3 years.
2 years.
2 years, maybe. But either way, thank you all for coming today. It's really appreciative to have so many of the public attend what I think is a very important, and I believe all of us up here believe is a very important part of our city government, which is how do we manage things on the planning commission side. So I appreciate everybody coming today. With that said, the next part is number 5. Do we have any ex parte communications? This is for the commission. Ex parte communications on extrajudicial matters or any conversations that you would like to raise. Okay. Moving quickly through this. Next item up today is our consent agenda. We have a number of items on our regular consent agenda in our public hearings. Main thing is review of our minutes from last month. Does anybody have any comments or any changes from last month's meeting minutes that you would like to raise?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as published.
Do I have a second for me? Good, thank you. I have a second for that. Can you take a roll call, please, on that?
Yes.
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 I was not here. Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, now I move on to the main meat of today's meeting, which I'm sure is why most of you are here, which is we have public hearings today. In order, we have a number of items that we are going to be covering today. For those who have not attended or seen one of our meetings here, generally, we open it, we have the staff presentation. We then have a comment period for the commissioners to ask questions, usually of our staff or our applicant, if an applicant is here. Then we will open it up to public comment. We had 3 or 4 minutes. We haven't done three minutes of public comment per person. And then we'll come back and wrap that up with any additional comments from the commissioners. And at that point, we would take a vote on the action and what we want to proceed with that, whether it's the action by itself or conditions that go with that. And that's the general process we'll run through for each of the items on our agenda today. But I wanted to outline that because a lot of people don't necessarily know how that works. The first thing on our agenda today is the site-specific plan for 226 Palm. Share the presentation.
Okay, through the chair. My name is Nick McElroy. I'm the senior planner here, and I'm here to present on the specific plan for 226 Palm Avenue. This project requires multiple permits, so it's considered a combined development permit for planning. Applicant applied back in August of 2023. It wasn't until January of this year that the application was is 8 parking spaces. They're proposing 6 spaces because of the constraints of the site. What this does is it allows 1 space per unit basically right now, and it eliminates the 2 guest spaces that would have been required otherwise. Under AB 2097, which was passed a few years ago, any project site that's within a half mile of high quality transit and is less than 20 units is allowed to, the city is not allowed to require a minimum number of parking spaces. So through this AB 2097, they don't need to provide all 8 spaces. And so they're providing 6 parking spaces. So here we get to the recommendation. So the permits in front of you will be a conditional use permit for the 6 units, site and architectural design review for the design of the project, and then also the specific plan, and it will all be a recommendation to the city council. So your review is to review and all of those 3 types of permits. And then staff has found that this qualifies for a CEQA exemption for infill development. So I won't read it verbatim, but that concludes my presentation for this project. If you have any questions, staff is here to answer technical questions. So.
Great. Thanks very much for that. Open it up to comments from the commission.
My comment is that, now that we are moving into new developments and spaces and all those sort of things, and in a housing development like this, why wouldn't there be at least 1 electric car charging station? Because that's going to be a very common need in the very near future. So that's just a comment, not a question.
There are requirements to the building code now where, depending on how many parking spaces you are installing, to have EV ready spaces. So at the time of building permit, the building official will review this project and tell them how many spaces, if they're required to put in EV ready stations or EV ready parking spaces. So what they do with those is they have it wired so that they can just install whatever type of charger they would have for their car if someone does own an EV vehicle. But I'm not aware of how many are required for this project. So.
Any other comments, Commissioner Jacobson? Okay. Commissioner St. John.
Thank you, Vice Chair. My first, both of my comments, I have a couple of comments. Both of them are regarding the conditions of approval. And under condition 15, stormwater retention, is this applicable on this particular site? And if so, where is the retention going to occur or how?
Oh, sorry. Is this on? So I can actually pull that up if you are curious. It's in the part of the plan set that I believe is the final sheet for that. And just a general response to the question. Share my screen so everyone can see it. I believe this is oh, well, had it.
And while Nick is doing that, just a friendly reminder to not to forget public comment.
So I thought I had it as part of my plan set, but I'm not seeing it right now. They did provide the stormwater plan. It basically is to have at the back of the site, they're going to have drainage for all the sites. So the topography of the site is that it actually goes downhill as you go towards the back of the site. And so they're going to have it drained towards the back of the site where there'll be like a bioswale to capture all the stormwater. And This is a standard condition of approval. All parcels in the city of Marina are required to retain all their water on site. When you go to a bigger project, sometimes there's a bigger plan for that, but all individual parcels should be graded and developed to retain all their stormwater.
Okay, thank you. My next question, or I hope last question, is the condition 19. Towards the end, it says that they would have a walkway included in the driveway. And that driveway really narrows down. I'm just wondering where the walkway, how they're gonna accomplish that.
Yeah, that's,
How wide would the walkway be?
it doesn't have to be too wide, but they are required to have pedestrian access to the site for this type of a project. So staff added that in to work with them when they get to the building permits phase. The driveway is roughly 13 feet wide, maybe a little wider, maybe 14. So they'll have to design it so that it can go to the back along this, probably most likely along the fence. So
It- it- The first 40% of the driveway is wider, then it necks down considerably
mhm.
to, and maybe it necks down to the 13 feet or so, I'm not sure, but
So what he's talking about is on the site plan on page 3.
Mhm.
And I think what's a valid point is what it isn't completely clear. It looks like make sure we got it right. It's 12-foot width of the driveway within the building area. And then it expands to something some feet wider.
Yeah.
As it moves up to the front. So the minimum width is 12 feet from front to back, but from the original house to the development, it's somewhere between 12 and it looks like 16. If this is right, probably 16 to 18 feet. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it does narrow down when you get there to accommodate one of the parking spaces, one of the uncovered parking spaces. So it'll probably be a pathway to the site, to that rear parcel. It won't necessarily continue past the driveway where it narrows down, but it is a requirement in the code. So that's why it's in the conditions of approval. So staff will work with the applicant to make sure that there is a small pathway. So there's access for pedestrians.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Walton?
Thank you so much, Chair. Okay, so I only have 2 questions this evening. My first one is with respect to that single family dwelling. Is that, who owns that? Is that a different citizen, or is that the same group that's the developers?
Yeah, so they bought both parcels. Originally, this was 3 parcels, 2 flag lots and a lot in the front. And then last year they did combine the 2 flag lots in the back. But it's all the same owner. It's currently being rented right now. Staff, in looking at this site with the applicants early on, we talked about maybe demolishing that single family home, but it's a fairly new single family homes and the applicant wanted to keep it. And there's currently tenants in it, so they're staying there, and it's basically not changing from the single family residence. But yeah, it's owned by the same developer that's developing the back.
Nice. I was wondering what that relationship would be like, but if they're the same person, I'm pretty sure they have a good relationship.
Yeah.
So, and then, can you walk me through what traffic will look like? I understand 6 cars isn't a whole lot. But when they have guests, or if one of these families has 2 cars, they'll be out on the street. So with that density increase, can you walk me through what that traffic might look like and any adjustments that the city's thinking about making?
Yeah, originally this was a 7 parking space site, but because of the number of units, they have to include an ADA space. So that removed one of the parking spaces. Staff is limited by state law, by the legislature. So we don't have the ability to require additional parking spaces. So for now, it'll be, what's proposed is there will be 6 parking spaces for 6 units. If they have 2 cars or they have guests, they'll have to utilize on-street parking.
And I think that's more what I'm talking about with respect to, okay, so we get to park there, but what does the increase in traffic, how will that affect this particular area with the increase in the vehicles driving down the street, parking, et cetera? Not, because it is an increase in density for, I think this is a single family, originally designed as a single family lot with only so many cars and so many vehicles on this particular street. So I'm wondering, with the increase of residents there,
Mhm. Yeah.
does the city have an idea of what the increase in traffic will look like?
So it is zoned for multifamily, so single-family homes are no longer permitted in this zoning district. So it's been upzoned since then, since the original development of it was with the 2 flag lots, that was done under a different zoning ordinance. And my understanding of the new downtown specific plan is gonna rezone this to multifamily residential, so it's gonna get rid of the commercial component of this site. So this is very much in keeping with the intention of the existing general plan, existing land use, and the proposed downtown specific plan. So this is infill, this is classic infill development, where it's putting multifamily in a multifamily area. There are homes to the, going towards, or towards Sunset, I believe, there's a couple single family homes on the corner, but then everything else surrounding it is multifamily. And anyone that I've talked to in the surrounding area wants to add density to this area. So everyone's looking at making it be more consistently multifamily in this area. So you're going to see more and more proposals, especially after the downtown specific plan is adopted, hopefully this year. You'll see a lot more of these projects come before you. What's unique about this really is the specific plan. Typically in cities, there's no need for a specific plan. This is a very unique requirement to the city of Marina. It's part of our general plan. There's a section in there that was adopted in 2008 with the idea that we would adopt a specific plan in 2009 or 2010. It's now 2024. We're hoping to adopt it this year. But because of that specific plan requirement, we actually don't get a lot of development in the downtown. So this is one of the projects that actually is pushed forward. So it's quite the endeavor to do a specific plan. There's a legal bare minimum requirement that they have to meet. So it takes a lot of time. That's why they applied for it back in August, but they had worked on it prior to August, and so then they had a lot more to fix between August and now. So it's a lot of work goes into these. It's a very long document, and hopefully we can get rid of that requirement. I'm hoping that once we adopt the downtown specific plan, that planning commission and city council can remove that requirement, so that way we can see more projects in the downtown area.
I appreciate the very thorough answer. I worry about density on our streets. So that's where my question, and I appreciate that. That was a very beautiful answer. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No more questions from the commission right now. I'll withhold my comments for a minute. Open it up to the public. If the public has any comments that they would like to make, or the applicant, I don't know if the applicant is here, would like to make at this point. Yeah. Okay. That said, there are no public comments. I turn it back over to the commission. If nobody else, I have a couple of questions. I know you answered one of them, which was, I was curious at where this fit in actual compliance relationship to our new vitalization plan, because even though it's not enforceable at this point, we're almost at that point, and I would like to see our things as they come forward match our new requirements. The second question I have, and this really, it's more about the motion itself. We discussed during the first part of this, the conditions on common open space and the condition on private open space, and that we both want that in place. And I know you've been working with them offline to ensure that that's incorporated in there. My question is, do we need to ensure that those two items are added as formal conditions to a motion that we make?
I added them to as conditions of approval. The open space is, condition of approval number 18. And then for the common open space, that's something that under the definition of common open space in our zoning code, it allows for the planning commission or the city council on appeal, or in this case, for approval of the specific plan, you can allow the driveway to be included as part of common open space. In this situation, in this specific project, I thought that the entry court area of the driveway was the best area for common open space, and then you can leave the rest of the area as just driveway. And that's why the open space for condition of approval is for that different type of pavers. So yeah, both of those two open spaces are part of that
Okay.
condition of approval.
And that's what I thought, that was, those conditions were in there. I just wanted to make sure, since that's been a big thing that we're trying to work on, is make sure we have the conditions correctly identified in here so that we don't come back 8 months after something is built and realize that we didn't get the conditions right on our developers. The last thing, and it's a follow-up on the EV side. When I was doing research on this, and outside, I was a couple months ago, my understanding is that under the new California requirements, that it's 10% of parking spaces must be EV capable for dwellings less than 20 units. It's 10% must be EV capable and 25% must be EV ready. And so what I guess, I don't necessarily know if it's a condition, because I don't know if that's the actual requirement and verify that, but if it is a requirement, then I would like that to ensure that we are meeting those requirements for the state.
If you're referring to the California Building Code, that will be embedded into the building permit already. So I wouldn't suggest you add it as a condition to this discretionary permit. But I don't know what the number is.
And that's fine. I just want to make sure that when we do cover it, that it is a thing that is going to become a bigger and bigger requirement, visibility wise, across the city as we keep building, especially on the infill side, because infill by default is building on older areas that are not EV ready. So I want to make sure that as we do this, that we're always cognizant that we're meeting the minimums, because I believe specifically in this case, especially if we run the wiring in there for EV ready, because this parking lot is so compact, it actually almost by default makes it 50%, at least 50%, because just the way the lines are going to be set up, you're going to have two next to each other out of 6 parking spaces. So we end up exceeding the requirements. That's how I look at it. So again, thank you, Commissioner Jacobson, for kind of raising that issue. I think that was a very important issue for us to keep in mind always. The last comment, and this is more like a comment that I just want to put on the record, is that I really like the design. I like the visuals. I like the vertical side. I know that this is a development that is literally will be seen more from, for those who don't realize, it's the development is literally the next street over from here. And if you start down the hill right here, you'll actually be able to see into where this development is going to be. You won't actually be able to see it from the front of the development itself on Palm Avenue. So for me to see that our builders are actually taking kind of modern standards, even if it's not going to be visible by the majority of the public, I think that that's a very positive for our city. I think it improves our overall status. So I did want to kind of get that on record. I have no other comments. Anybody else? Yes, Commissioner Hart.
Well, my question is the city ready to respond to the complaints from the neighbors in case they complain about construction noise? Because in the item 13, some of the hours that are allowed for construction, there's family time involved. You know, Sundays and holidays and during daylight savings time, construction may be extended to 8 p.m. So given that it's highly dense area, is the city ready to detect whether, you know, this can be, I mean, the builder may not always follow.
Yes, we're ready. This is straight out of our code. This is straight out of Marina Municipal Code 15.04.055. So It's just putting in the conditions of approval for enforcement, so make sure that they adhere to these hours and not go beyond them. But yeah, we're ready. We respond to those here and there, yeah.
And if they're not, they're gonna have his direct number at home. So, okay, at that point, I'll go ahead and close comment oh, you have one more? Okay.
Yeah, just one more comment. I'd like to also say that this was a very comprehensive package, very well prepared. I really think that this second part of it, or the most of the pages, are the specific plan. And I really, it is very comprehensive and should be part of a mega complex rather than a 6-unit. And I would like to see that requirement disappear. You know, as soon as we could make it disappear in the future. And otherwise, and the last is soon I think we will have objective design guidelines and other objective documents and that are in the development phase or approval phases. And so if we get those, will it also assist in not needing these specific plans? Yeah, that's my comment. So other than that, we're ready to go.
All right, could you bring the motion back up, please? And is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion on this? Oh, Guido, are you sitting?
He's remote
I
today.
know he's remote.
No,
Right.
I was gonna say the staff completely concurs with the commission. The specific plan requirement is in the general plan. As soon as this downtown specific plan is adopted, then that requirement goes away. It is a hindrance to building housing. So yes, we completely concur.
This is more of my personal curiosity because item 17, it talks about archaeology and in advent discovery. So, I mean, we all know that this part was, part of Native Americans' territory, but has there been any archaeological findings in the area?
Not to our knowledge, but this is a standard condition for any ground disturbing activities. So in the event that something is found during excavation or ground disturbance, then that these rules have to be followed by the contractor.
I see. Thank you.
Anybody like to make the motion?
I'd be happy to make the motion. I move to adopt resolution 24-05, recommending that the city council approve the 226 Palm specific plan, which establishes the development standards, included in a conditional use permit and site and architectural design review for a 6-unit apartment building proposed at 226 Palm Avenue, parenthesis APN 032-303-046, close parenthesis, and find that this project is exempt from environmental review per section 15332, infill development projects of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA guidelines.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any comments or amendments that would like to be made to that? If not, the answer is no. If not, can we take our roll call vote, please?
Yes, Commissioner Walton,
Yes.
Commissioner St. John,
Yes.
Commissioner Herr,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobson,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Woodson.
Yes.
4-0. 5-0. Motion passes. Thank you.
Because you're like not counting me at all. It's like, oh, vice chair is not the same. And he's only vice, so. Okay. Thank you very much. All right, let's go back to the agenda.
Thank you.
The agenda. So I don't have the agenda up. I'm assuming that the next item up for discussion is the development parcel request an application for 3014 Lake Court.
Yes.
Okay. I put it on a different page. Okay,
Okay. Okay, so this is a conditional use permit and coastal development permit application for a project located at 3014 Lake Court. And the project description. So this project seeks to install a 5,000 gallon water storage tank and pump system to provide a permanent water source to an existing residence. Once the water service is established, the former single-family residential use can be restored. So again, there is already a single-family residence on this property, but it has not been inhabited due to a variety of reasons that we'll go into a little bit more deeply. Additionally, the applicant seeks to develop a new detached two-car garage, 480 square feet in size and 16 feet in height. And this would actually be a long, narrow garage, like tandem parking spaces. This property is planned and zoned public facility or PF, which is, it's also in the city's coastal zone and regulated under the local coastal program and zoning code. This zoning district of public facility does allow a single family residence with a use permit. So although there's already physically a single family residence there, it has not been occupied for several years. So this applicant, the owner of the property, is going through these discretionary review processes to bring everything into conformance, get all the permits to legitimize this residential use so he can live there again. The proposed development does constitute development in the coastal zone, so therefore a coastal development permit is required. One of the challenges with this particular project is in the public facilities zone. It does not include typical development standards that you would find in, for example, a residential single-family zone. So it does not come with the maximum height or floor area ratio or setbacks. So as part of the conditional use permit you're considering right now, it's up to you to determine whether his proposed garage setback, for example, is appropriate for the, say, the setting and the neighborhood and the like. So here's the site plan. This is in your packet. You can see the existing dwelling there on the north side of the property, and then the proposed detached garage on the south side of the property. There are two existing outbuildings already on the site, and then the hash marks in the circle on the east side, and then the little rectangle with hash marks represent the proposed water storage tank and the pump facility. And then this property does have already on-site septic system, which is there in the very small dashed rectangle between the house and the proposed garage. You will note in the staff report that there are many conditions of approval associated with these permits, specifically to ensure that, for example, the on-site septic is adequately functioning. So before the city will finalize the building permit and allow occupancy, we will require verification from the county environmental health department that they have tested the functionality of this septic to ensure that it's safe. So here's a picture of the site right now. And so some of the considerations for the commission and what make this a very unique area and project. The east side of Lake Court is developed with 3 small legal nonconforming residences. Assessor records indicate that the subject residence was built in the 1930s. So there's a long history of residential use at the end of this very small cul-de-sac and little residential neighborhood, but it's also a neighborhood that has a city corporation yard and the city's old animal shelter, all on the east side of Lake Court. All of the west side of Lake Court is owned by state parks and it's access to Marina State Beach and other state public lands. So the city's local coastal program specifically addresses the existing residential neighborhood on this precise street. It specifically calls out this neighborhood and it states that the residential use, 1 residence per parcel, are allowed to continue, even though it's planned and zoned public facility. And then the other complicated aspect is that there is no public water on this street. The existing water main, Marina Coast Water District's water main is quite far away to the north, actually on the east side of the freeway overpass. So it's quite an extension and quite a cost to extend it further down Lake Court to serve these properties. So because of that, the applicant is proposing this water storage tank. Staff did talk with both Marina Coast Water District and the County of Monterey Environmental Health Bureau regarding water, on-site septic, et cetera. Neither of those agencies had specific concerns or requirements, but as I noted earlier, we will require that the applicant provide us with verification from the county that the septic is in good working order. And also of note, the existing residence itself has many building code issues that are not up to current habitable building code. There was an attached, or one of the exhibits in your staff report was actually a memo prepared by our former building official that outlines everything that he'll need to do to the residents to be able to occupy that. So in conclusion, we do find that this project is exempt from California Environmental Quality Act for sections 15301 for existing facilities and also 15303 for new construction. And we provided a sample motion there for you. And that concludes my staff report. I'm available for any questions, and the applicant is also in the audience if you have any questions for him.
Great, thank you very much. Again, knowing that we've also received a letter from one of the neighbors today.
Yes, thank you.
So definitely, and that I believe they're in the audience today also. Right there, thank you. What we'd like, and since you weren't here right at the beginning, just kind of remind that we'll have open forward to the commission first, then response from the public, and then the applicant at any point will be able to ask for clarification from the applicant and then come back to the commission for any final questions. So opening that up, I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the commission. Yes, Commissioner Walton.
Thank you. I may come back with another question, but right now my first is, I just wanted to know if this site has electricity.
It does have electricity,
Thank you.
yes.
Is that it? It's easy. Commissioner Jacobson.
A couple of questions. Number one, How did the other properties get water?
That is a very long and confusing story of history. Only, to my knowledge, only the neighbor to the south of the subject property has a connection to the public water system that is through, I think the neighbor is here. She can maybe explain it better than I can. But the property to the further south, the third property on the south does not have a connection to public water either.
I was by there today, and I swear I identified 4 properties.
There,
It looked like there were 2 small residences in a skinny lot between this lot that we're talking about and one.
yeah, I believe that's one legal lot. And then there's a third lot, and there's actually a fourth vacant triangular shaped lot behind. But I believe the property you're thinking of is just one large lot.
But there isn't 2 homes south, this home to the north, and then this other property in between.
No, I believe, and maybe you can actually clarify this, that it's 3014, if looking at the properties, 3014 is on the far left. 3010 actually has the home, and then to the left of it, a second modular
Yeah.
that's between 3014 and the actual house of 3010. And then there's a third at 3006, which is the far right.
Right.
And then behind that is the fourth triangular lot that's undeveloped, that's left over.
Okay.
And I believe the 3010X, so it actually has 2 different habitable buildings. Looks like habitable
Looks
buildings.
like habitable.
Whether they are or
building,
not,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of
Yeah.
of the
It
property.
was interesting either. And the other comment was, this property has been unoccupied.
Correct.
It looked like it was occupied when I went by there today, but maybe that's just because it was.
There's stuff
Stuff
being
there.
stored there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Next up is Commissioner St. John. I am like 3 for 3 tonight on getting your name right.
It's your name. Yeah. Anyway,
Just start calling me Nancy.
okay. All right. Let's see, just a clarification on the water. I thought I read somewhere in the history that one of the lots has a water well, but I'm not sure if that's correct or not. So that's a question. Does one of the lots have a water well? And then a follow-up to that is a water well a viable answer to providing water for this lot? And then a third is that, is there still a Monterey County ordinance that states that a reliable source of water is not considered to be water which is transported by any manner of vehicle or container, which would, mean that putting up the 5,000 gallon water tank, which would get its replenishment by a transit truck, a water truck, which would be a vehicular way of replenishing your water. Would that be in violation of Monterey County's code? If that still exists, I don't know. Okay, so enough on water. I'm a little concerned on the plot plan. If you can put that back up on the screen. I would like some clarification on where the septic leach field is, the existing leach field. Is it is it clear of the future garage? And is it clear of what isn't shown, but the driveway access to the garage? And so it wouldn't be under any of the buildings, so that leaves only a small piece of the lot where the leach field could be. Anyway, I think that should be shown and identified the outline and dimensions of the septic field. And it probably is many years old. So I would like a report when they do the septic tank and septic system validation, that the leach field is also in suitable operability. Okay. There was also a couple of permits from 2020, building permits. One, again, for this 5,000 gallon water tank and pump, and another for 100 amp new electric panel, primary panel. And did the electric panel get installed? Would be a question. And obviously, the 5,000 gallon water tank didn't. So, okay. I think that's all for now.
Thanks. So since we're just adding to this thing, so I have only a couple questions right now that are gonna add on to that. The first one is, as I kind of pointed out when I talked to staff about this, yesterday, I think, was, I would like the applicant to explain kind of what their expectations on the size of the 5,000 gallons. 5,000 gallons is, yes, it's about, I know size-wise, there are many different ways to get to 5,000 gallons. And you could have a very skinny 16-foot tall tank, or you could have a 10-foot diameter tank that's only 8 feet tall. So I would like to kind of understand where that is. Again, and my perspective on this is, if we look at approval of this and we allow a water tank, no matter what we do, the visibility off of Highway 1 is looking down on all these properties. There's nothing we can do. It just is what it is. People are driving by at 65 miles an hour. However, if there are people driving down Lake Court to park and go out to the dunes, we have these homes here. As we look at developmental standards and how things are presented in the city, that raises two kind of concerns. First is code compliance. And that's kind of a bigger concern of mine, is that we want to make sure things in the city of Marina meet our codes and that they look presentable. We don't have to have dress like dress out of 1950s homes where everything just looks perfect. But we do want things to have a certain minimum standard of how we look at, because we do have a code compliance person now full-time on our staff. So it's not this kind of, hey, we only have 2 hours a week of somebody to cover 1,000 items. So that's the first part of it. And the second part is just from a visuals perspective. Again, if we're going back to the bigger discussion that we've been having about how do we present things in the city, even if this is a zoned PF area, which is not part of our revitalization area, it's not part of our normal typical zoning, we still want to try to hold to a kind of basic conceptual standard. And I think the idea of having something that is a 2-foot, a water tank that ends up being significantly bigger from the street view doesn't have that appeal presence. So my concept there is that I would like to ask the applicant specifically, and I can't not necessarily put a condition on it, even though I guess we could, that I would not like to see it extend higher than the height of the property that are physically directly in front of it. So that it's kind of, right now they've got the trail, I'm guessing that's probably that modular has 8 foot plus probably 2 or 3 foot ceilings, so it's probably 10 or 11 feet in total height. So I would like to not see the tank exceed that. just again, from a visual perspective of what we're trying to accomplish in our city. And knowing that we are kind of open here because we really kind of have this carte blanche area across the board. And it's just this weird kind of zoning thing that is a holdover. So that's my other one. I have some other comments, but I think I'll hold that off. At this point, I want to open up to public comment. I do have one question for staff or for Guido, who's sitting here hidden away from us, is if some of these questions could definitely probably that have been raised are probably best answered by the applicant. Would it be better to, is it better to start with the applicant and allow them to respond first and then open it to the public or the general public or vice versa?
I mean, after staff presentation and council inquiry, probably it's a good idea to open it up to the applicant first.
Thank you. So at this point, is the applicant here? Would you like to provide any comment to any of the questions? Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we'll open it up to the rest of the general public to respond. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Good evening. I'm glad that we're able to bring a nice crowd for you this evening. Hopefully we won't have to set any more records down the line.
We want records. We want everybody here, every seat.
So again, I am the applicant. My name is Jeff Perrine. I'm the owner of 3014 Lake Court. I grew up here in Marina. I've lived here for over 40 years. I have two boys whom I've raised here. The eldest is now 26. The youngest is 13, who's currently attending Los Arbos Middle School. It's just a little bit about myself. I've been an active member of the community, volunteered my time with various organizations like Marina Soccer, Marina Baseball, the Knights of Columbus, and the American Legion. For a number of years, I helped manage the Sanctuary Beach Resort, where I was able to support and promote many city events, support local businesses, support the Chamber of Commerce, and support various city departments, such as the police department. I currently work for Monterey Peninsula Unified School District, where I'm able to continue my service to the community. As a longtime city resident, minority family, active volunteer, and low to moderate income MPUSD employee, I am seeking your support so that my son and I can finally live in our home. Housing is a challenge for families like mine on the peninsula, and is also a challenge that the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District is struggling to address. Tonight, we have a wonderful opportunity to tackle this specific issue. And you have the opportunity to show your resolve to help to address the current housing crisis that we're all facing. While this will not fix the entire housing crisis that the city faces, it will be huge for me and my family. While moving into our home may only contribute on a small scale toward achieving the city and state goals of affordable housing and urban infill, it will be a gigantic, life-changing step forward for me and my family. I look forward to gaining your support on this matter. I concur with the staff report recommendations, and I agree with the thoroughness of the report. The staff report summarizes everything very well, and I'm prepared to continue to work with the city to finish and finally get moved into my home. Thank you.
Thanks. I think a couple questions that I think have been raised by the commission that again, we could turn back to staff, but hopefully you can clarify for the commission a little bit easier, all right, quicker. The first thing that came up, and I hopefully I got the notes down correctly, is I think on the first one is actually we'll start with the electric panel. That was raised as a question that there was a permit that was put in for both the original tank in 2020 and then the electric panel 100. Was the electric panel actually installed?
Yes.
Okay.
Inspected.
Okay.
And permitted.
The second one, I think this is probably one of the bigger concerns that many of us kind of have when we through this is actually, again, the septic system in Leachfield. It's unusual, but again, we have some of these holdover properties across our city that meet different requirements than our standard, what we expect of zoning nowadays. But it's allowable in a PF area, and even in a coastal zone. But to that point, there is a concern again. A leach field is septic tanks and leach fields, in our environment definitely are not what we generally have in the city of Marina. So I think the request that my fellow commissioner raised on understanding the age and understanding the viability of not only the septic tank, but the leach field itself is something that for us to look at approving this. I know it's not in the current conditions. And there are a very long list of conditions, and I appreciate the amount of staff, and I'll come back to that in a minute. Is that something really kind of that you can help us work with on providing?
I mean, I've been working with the city staff, with the planning department and the building department. So whatever they require, I will do. I did have the septic system inspected, and I do have a document showing that it was inspected. It's been submitted to the city from the Peninsula Septic Tank Service, and I'll read it. I recently performed a septic system inspection at 3014 Lake Court, Marina, California. I found the septic system at normal level and functioning properly. The septic system consists of a homemade concrete block septic tank of approximately 850 gallons. The septic tank was in good physical condition and had a concrete bottom. The septic tank flows into a concrete distribution box before flowing into a bed type of dispersal field. A pressure test was performed on the dispersal field and accepted all the water. Based on our findings, the septic system is in good physical condition and was functioning properly at the time of our inspection. This septic system is adequate to support the existing single-family dwelling. Peter Dew, General Manager of Peninsula Septic Tank Service. So it's been inspected, but I understand that I may have to do a further inspection, before I get moved in. But
No, and that's fine.
it's-
I think that was I think that answered the commission's concerns on that side of it is again, viability. And I come from an area in East Tennessee where the karst topography is leach fields and everything are a critical part in a lot of the areas that I've lived. So it's always a concern.
No,
Make sure
I
that
understand.
that it's correct because this is your primary SDS system that you're going to have, probably for the longevity of having the home. So we want to make sure it's designed right and taken care of. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think the other one was the actual physical, just on the diagram itself. The other question he had was where exactly is kind of the leach field? Could you pull up the map of the site map?
The septic is would be in front of the garage in that area.
So it actually will, so are you, and the plan right now is just to leave that as unpaved, or is that paved?
Right now, it's not paved. It's just base rock.
So-
I don't, if I do anything, it'll be through the permission of the city.
Okay. So it's in
I
front.
don't plan on doing cement. If anything, I might do pavers because if I ever had to,
If you have to pull it out. And that was,
Yeah.
that was not knowing where it was. That was kind of my next question was now that knowing it's in front, I was actually thinking it was towards the back. So I'm glad you clarified that.
yeah, but
Great.
the garage would not cover any part of the system at all.
The second, and I guess we'll come back to my concern on the height side of it. Do you have an idea of the type of this, the
I
dimensions
don't-
of type tank you're looking at?
I don't have it with me. It is something that I did submit to the city originally, when I got the original permit. I don't have it with me, but you don't have a lot of choices when you look to get a 5,000 gallon tank. You can either get a really tall one or a really wide one. And so I tried to get one that's kind of in the middle, that's not super tall and it's not super wide. It's something, and it should be green. It's in the very back part of the property. It's gonna blend right in with the cypress trees. I mean, you won't even see it from the street unless you're peeking over to the fence and looking for it. You know,
Well, and
I
I
do
think
plan
that-
on putting up a new fence and really beautifying the area. And when we talk about beautifying the area and the image of Marina, the real blight on Lake Court are not the residences. The real blight on Lake Court is the corporation yard and the old animal shelter. When you look down from the highway, you can barely see my property. I mean, you pass my property before you can see my property. I mean, you really don't see it. What you see from the highway is the corporation yard.
I think the other ones on the staff side, I think we can, the other question, I don't have any other questions for the applicant. Does anybody else? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna hold my comments back to staff to follow up on, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now open it up the floor to the public. I'm gonna give a little bit of latitude here because we did let the applicant have a little more time to introduce themselves to this. So typically we only give 3 minutes, but I'm willing to give,
Facility. We don't have a way to. We could just maybe pass it around between the commissioners.
so what I'm willing to do with the commission, yes.
So the applicant could make a presentation.
Yeah.
Public comment, please.
So I was willing to just open it up and allow, well, 4 to 5 minutes. But it's up to, I wanted to present that to the commission and see. The 4 to 5 minutes. Everybody else?
5 is fine for me.
Okay. So I will gonna change the public comment period and allow up to 5 minutes, just given the number of the comments that came for this. So, yes, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, planning commissioners, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm going to read my comments because I get nervous and I find it difficult to keep my train of thought. My name is Tina Walsh. I am the next door neighbor of the property in question. This is not a situation of a house in a city suburb that falls into disrepair and needs renovation. This is a situation of a building on a property that was in the jurisdiction of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors, much like you see in the rural areas around Casterville and Prunedale, up until the time that the city of Marina was incorporated. The infrastructure and grading needed to prepare the land have never been done, and I worry about possible harm to my own property if soil and or water migrate onto my property, which lies downhill. The site plan inaccurately describes new construction as existing construction. And as I wrote in my letter earlier, he shows a existing structure in the southeast corner of the property that is not existing as far as any general plan would be concerned, because that's only been there since last July. It was put up over a weekend. It's a kit house placed on there, new construction in the coastal development permit area without any coastal permit being applied for. I lost my spot. Okay, inaccurately lists new condition as existing construction and placement of the new overly tall garage is too close to the property line. I brought a photograph, which is being passed around between the commissioners, showing a vehicle parked where this proposed garage is supposed to go. And you can see that vehicle is listing downhill because the soil on that lot has not been properly compacted, and there's no lack of proper retaining walls. If you look at the top of the vehicle compared to the buildings in the same picture, you can see the buildings are level, but the vehicle is tilting downhill. A public records request done at the city and at Monterey County found no permits on file for a septic system at this location. Even if a tank is in the ground, there is no proof that it was ever in service and functional. The lot is too small to accommodate a proper septic system, which needs sufficient leach field setbacks to protect neighbors. No technical specifications have been presented of either the septic system or the water storage tank in this application. Question I just had when you were questioning the applicant about the inspection of his septic tank there is what year, when was this septic tank inspected? And this is important because that lot has been without any water service for more than 30 years. So how did they inspect a septic system and find it to be up to levels and functioning properly when there's no water service to that parcel? That makes no sense to me. I'd like to see proof. I see you need more technical proof about that septic system before anything can go forward. I'm concerned about a lack of consistency with city policy. I've been here for 25 years. All of the 3 surrounding properties in that area have changed hands during that time. They generate a lot of interest due to the low prices, but the hurdles of bringing in the basic requirements such as water, sewer, and other utilities have discouraged most buyers away. If you now agree a house can become habitable by running off of a water tank, are you not setting precedent for future developments in this area? How does this water tank comply with the requirement in the coastal plan that new development must be connected to public water? Is the water being trucked in being supplied by a public water entity? Can I also run my own house off a water storage tank if my water fails? I have my own experience applying for a coastal development permit. In 2011, I was asked to apply for one for the same reason Mr. Prine has been asked to approve the residential use of the property where I live so that an accessory use could be allowed. I was able to meet the requirements and the permit was obtained. There are differences between the staff report for my application and the one that you have before you tonight. The very first thing on my list of findings is that the water and private sewage disposal requirements had been met. In addition, my application was found to be consistent with the local coastal land use and implementation plan in 12 areas. By contrast, the permit application before you tonight focuses on the building and pays very little attention to the governing local coastal plan. The requirements for an application should be procured before the application is submitted and should not themselves be the subject of the application. I recommend that you deny this application. Thank you. Water questions. There are 4 properties down there. 2 of us have water. I have water from the Marina Coast Water District. It's an unusual situation. I'm connected directly to their meter by a very long lateral line that comes to and serves only my property. The house at 30,006 runs off of a well.
So, I extended the time slightly, but yes, you need to go ahead and wrap it up because we're actually.
Okay,
on 5
anyway,
minutes.
he does have a well and it was grandfathered in. That house has been there since before Marina was incorporated. The well was always been functioning during that time.
So I get that's 3006. That doesn't pertain to this.
It doesn't pertain to this,
So-
but there was a question. I'd be happy to answer any questions about my water.
No, I actually understand that side of it and I can,
Okay,
I've already have the answers from staff on those
okay,
on the other properties.
okay.
So it was a valid question and we actually already have the answers to that. Thank you very much for your comment period. And to the audience at the very beginning of this, because of the issues, I actually extended the time period to 5 minutes. Any other public comment? Yes. Sure.
You guys remember me now? Hi, Michael Solas. I'm born and raised Marina, California. I'm here on Jeff Perrine's behalf. I agree with you on a lot of things, you know, but she just said it herself. There's a long line. I do construction, so can he tap into that water line? She's on somebody else's meter, so who's paying for her water? Is that not what she just said?
Okay, so speak to the.
I'm sorry.
Speak to the commission.
Okay.
When I don't,
What I'm asking for Jeff, we know there's water on 2 properties, correct?
there are, so it's irrelevant, not necessarily germane to his issue. There is a there is a lateral tap to one, and there is a well off the other zone parcel property there. This specifically is a different one. This is looking at putting a tank in. That's different. So.
Okay, and then if he has his septic tank inspected up to code, would that be like, because I understand what she's saying. I wouldn't want a septic tank next to my house as well, but if it's done correctly, it's doable, right?
So I think that it's not necessarily a question and answer period with us. So specific statements that if you have a question that you wanted to ask us or present us, that's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. No, no, no.
I'm just trying to understand it because I just think he's really worked on this really hard, and I just think he deserves a chance and them to become friends, you know?
Yeah.
That's it. I'll leave it right.
No, that's fine. I really appreciate that. I mean, it's it's
To-
why we're a community.
To the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, so usually when we take comments from the public, there is no question and answer. They
Right.
give their testimony, they give their facts or evidence. It's taken into the record. And then at the end of public comment, then the commission and staff can then kind of answer those questions or comments, but it's definitely not a back and forth situation. So we just want to have a fair due process for all applicants and for everybody presenting tonight, so.
Okay, Deborah Armbruster. I live in Seaside now, but I sold him that property. And I did live in that house, and she's incorrect for saying that it has not been inhabited. My brother lived in that house, my father lived in that house, and I lived in that house. And then when saltwater intrusion came into the well, that became a great problem. And for Miss Walsh, that center house, I actually rented that house before she purchased it. And I happen to know that Mr. Bill Rabe, who's an engineer, he's the one who brought in city water, but he did it only for his own house. And then the property to the right of that house, not Jeff's property now, but there are 3 homes straight in a row. The one at the very end, far south, that one also has saltwater intrusion, but somehow they're managing to still maintain it as a residence. So to say that if you don't have water, you can't reside in your home, they figured out by bringing in bottled water. I think they use the saltwater intrusion well water to maybe bathe or wash clothes. I'm not sure. But as far as what's been presented tonight, I highly encourage you. It's been years. My father purchased that property in the 60s. And we've been working with the city. We've done everything we could. And Jeff and his family, they've put in a lot of work there. So it has been brought up to date. It has, and it will be. I mean, it'll be something you could be proud of. Like when people do come down there, to visit the beach, it'll look nice. I think that's something that you brought up was what's it going to look like? And I think it's going to look great. So please approve this for him.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Regina Lualamana. I'm a Marina resident and homeowner here. I am a friend of Jeff's, but I only have one comment because what you brought up was actually very clear about the image of the actual water tank and how you see it coming across the highway. And what really came to my mind is the fact that as a Marina resident, I really would like to see our area beautified. I want to embrace art. I like the whole idea of what Sand City has been doing with all of their murals. And I honestly think that this is an opportunity. He can beautify that thing. It doesn't have to be green and mesh into the trees. We can have a local artist, whether they're youth or someone else, come in and beautify that tank. People driving by, taking a look at that, at people in the front, people coming through and trying to see our coast. Perfect opportunity to beautify that. So that's my only comment. But thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Jim Perrine. I'm a former elected official here in this community. I've actually served on 8 different local public agency policy-making bodies. I'm retired career public administrator, and I'm formerly served on as project review boards, AKA planning commissions. So I would say that to let you know that this, I understand this, the development process is why I'm telling you this, that in my seasoned opinion, the staff has done a great job and have given a dispassionate report to you. And I appreciate the service that they have done, and I appreciate your service as commissioners. Subject property has a long history, and a case could be made that the county, the state of California, Marina Coast Water District, and the city of Marina have neglected the properties down there. And perhaps they've even undertaken actions that have adversely affected those properties. But that history and who or what previous owners or were or what went on during those previous ownerships really is not relevant to the consideration you have before you tonight. The property has always been residential. It's never been converted to some other use, and has certainly not been a public facility. There were a number of these types of parcels and a number of these types of residences along Lake Court. And the only ones that are still standing are the ones at the end of Lake Court right now. The rest of them are their location is underneath the highway. Lake Court went straight. It didn't curve, and it was a straight road from the school, from Del Mar School to this location. It was a straight line. The freeway came in, demolished, acquired the properties, demolished those structures, and then built the dog leg into the Lake Court, and severed it from utilities, from any access to water system. Nature. And I'd also say that this property has had its highs and lows in maintenance, and it's has experienced some vandalism over time, and trespassing has occurred, and squatters have been there. But it also has a long history as a residential use for the family that has been there for decades. Nature and the acts of God at times ravage man-made structures, and floods and earthquakes and fire and severe windstorms, fallen trees and corrosive sea air unfortunately cause structures to become uninhabitable at times. I think we had some of those in the area just here in these last few days. And when any of those types of circumstances might arise, the properties can either remain a blight on the community, or the public agencies can offer processes by which to allow for the restoration of the properties. So communities garner their strength and their viability when landowners persevere to weather man's criminality
and the wrath of acts of God. Such is the case before you have today. Will you adopt the suggested motion within your staff report, thus exhibiting the viability of our community? Or do you wish to transmit an uncaring and negative image that will detrimentally impact property values and investor perspectives in the community? I ask you to take the high road and give an approval as outlined in the staff report that's before you. And if I could offer a answer to one of the questions, water well feasibility down there, as you heard, there's saltwater intrusion. There's also a size limitation. You can't have, with the size of the parcel, you can't have both a water well and a septic system on the same parcel or this size of parcel. It's just not feasible. It's not, in the public health code. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any more public comment periods? Yes.
Hi, my name is Xander Walsh. I'm Justina's son. And I just wanted to add that what else is also in the health code is that you're not supposed to operate a septic system off water that's trucked in. It needs to be brought public water from a pipe that's consistent, not trucked in. So just take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Actually, him first. Before you, actually, you have a, I will come back to you.
Good evening. I'm Harry Allen. I've been a resident in Marina for over 50 years. And I'm here in support for Mr. Perine's property. I'm a little familiar with it. I know all the work he's put into it. And very eager to move in there. I ask you to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. So, and I'm actually going to close the public comment. I understand what, can he see Nick or?
You can, if there are no other members of the public who wish to address the council, the commission, you can close public hearing and you can still have the applicant
I can have the applicant reply.
answer questions.
And that's
Yeah.
what I would like to do. But you have one more. Oh, no, absolutely.
Thank you. My name's Heather Kirk. I'm a Marina resident and homeowner. And I've known Jeff Perine and his family for 20 years. And just wanted to show my support. My husband and I know their family. He's a man of integrity. He's a hard worker, great family. He's been our neighbor for years and I can depend on him for anything, trust him with anything. When he says he's going to do something, he's going to do something. So if he is given the opportunity to make this property a home for him and his family, he will make it a beautiful site and he will improve it. He will work with the city to make it the best it can be. And instead of a challenging, parcel that it is right now. So I just wanted to voice my support for him for this permit that he's asking for. And just thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments? I think we've almost got everybody who's here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the floor to public comments. Now, if the applicant would like to respond, give you an opportunity.
Thank you. Exciting night, I'm sure, for you guys. No, I just wanted to clarify that with regards to anything that goes on Lake Court at 3014, we'll just be specific to my property. Everything is within the city's jurisdiction. The county has no jurisdiction. We've already reached out to the county, to the health department. They have no permit requirements. They have no jurisdiction. I've brought copies of emails that I can supply you guys with. I have actually brought 6 copies, so you don't have to share them. Everyone can have a copy of the emails from both the Monterey County Health Department and another county agency, both specifying that they have no jurisdiction in the city of Marina unless it is a county-owned building, which it is not. So they have no jurisdiction. This is simply a city matter, a city decision. And that's all I wanted to say.
And I'm gonna leave you into the hot seat right there for a minute. Could you put up the plot plan, please? Because I do have a question for you, and then I'm gonna have a question for the staff, unfortunately, or fortunately. Okay, so looking at this lot line, we now know where the leach field is located. And I guess my question to staff and then my question to you is it's the same part question is, usually within leach fields, there are a number of different distances that a leach field could be from certain things. So typically in a lot line, it is 6 to 8 feet from a lot line. I don't know what the requirement is in Marina. Again, we don't have a lot of PF zoned areas. So this is new area to us. So the first one is understanding where the current leach field is versus what the California, if we don't have it in the state on the city side, my question to the staff is, do we then default to the county or the state guidelines on distances of a leach field from a lot line? So that's the first question. And then the second question is, and this is where we're going to get into some of the bigger discussion, and I think we may not get an answer tonight, is the same question goes to active wells. If the property at 3004, is it 3006? 3006 is currently still using an active well, there is usually also a permitted distance that a leach field can be sitting from that permitted well. Typically, I believe that's 100 feet, but I don't know what the standards are.
So to your question number one, I don't know what those standards are either, but that's why this condition was included, condition number 8, which hopefully will resolve this topic. Because it clearly states that before he can occupy the house, whatever the on-site sewage disposal system is that he's proposing to use must be inspected. So they would be looking at setbacks, they would be looking at distance from whatever it is that the experts in this field look at in order to sign off and allow him to occupy. So this is a pretty all-encompassing condition. I do believe that we can rely on county health, even though they might not have jurisdiction. They are qualified to make these types of inspections. We could also rely on a more current inspection by a private qualified septic servicer company. But those all have to be handled before he can get final occupancy and actually inhabit this property. So we're not here to talk about 3006. They're doing whatever they're doing.
Right.
We really need to keep it focused on this property and this development application.
And to me, it's not necessarily the property, it's the fact that if we have an active well that's within whatever the setback requirements are. That's, and the reason I raised it to you as an applicant is that those are probably my biggest concerns because of having a leach field. It is permitted.
Let me just answer that. Every property there has its own septic system. So that property using that well, they have their own septic system in their front yard.
I'm going to leave that as, that is one of my concerns. And I will leave that. And if it's addressed in the SDS condition, then that's fine. Just understand that that's where it has to meet. I'm not concerned about necessarily the other properties and what they have there. It's important. And if they're not in compliance with the city, that's a whole different issue that has nothing to do with today.
Yeah.
I think the other question that I have, and if I believe this is right on zoning, of a PF area, and this is more just clarification. Since this is zoned as PF and we don't have we don't have the standard construction requirements and other things like we discussed literally 45 minutes before with our previous area, where those conditions are built into our standard code. Are things such as grading and everything, those are part of, when I went through the conditions, I don't believe I saw a grading component to the current conditions.
Yes,
Do we need to stipulate that for a PF zoned area?
any grading that will need to occur as part of his development will be associated with the building permits. So for example, the grading for the foundation for the proposed garage, that's all part of the building permit.
Okay.
Any site preparation work.
Basically anything, even though it's zone PF and it has different set of requirements compared to our main R and C areas, though those would be covered typically, again, just like every place else, under just our construction permitting.
Yes, yes, under the building code.
Okay. Those are the main questions one more question. Again, sensitive habitat, I don't believe, it is in a coastal area, but I don't believe there are any sensitive habitats immediately adjacent to the property. From what I read of the staff report, is that?
I would say the entire west side of Lake Court is officially environmentally sensitive habitat area under our LCP, but there's nothing that is being proposed right now is going to have an impact on
And that's
the
what
west
on
side.
on the west side where he's proposing to do development, there was nothing that is considered sensitive.
Correct.
Okay. Those were the questions I have to the commission. Are there any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few questions. And most of them are, all of them are for staff. So I don't know if anybody else has questions for Mr. Perrine before we let him.
If we're willing to let him sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Prime. So for the staff, with respect to Ms. Walsh's testimony, and thank you for addressing the grading component already. So I'm gonna mark that one off my list. What I guess and actually you've answered a couple of my questions. So looking through this, I didn't necessarily see what it was that was keeping MCWD from running a line to Mr. Perrine's property.
It is cost.
It's the cost?
Yes.
It's the cost for MCWD or it's the cost for Mr. Perrine?
Well, if Mr. Perrine wanted to pay the cost estimated in 2007 was $38,000, I believe, to extend it. Now in 2024 dollars, I don't know what it would be, but that would be his cost entirely unless the other property owners all pitched in and paid for that extension, but it's very prohibitive.
So what then, let's just a little thought experiment maybe, and then my question would be what protects, so if things go south for Mr. Perrine, the grading and everything is done to code, but for whatever reason, they're seeping from the septic tank later in the years, what protects Ms. Walsh from Mr. Perrine's development?
If something was to occur, it would be handled as any other code enforcement issue. We would, as soon as the city is alerted to an issue, we would investigate through our code enforcement office and follow up to abate whatever the violation is.
Thank you. And I think that really is, I do appreciate the comment about beautifying the tank. I do see that a mural from the highway would be very nice for the city of Marina. Thank you for the comment.
there any other comments from the commission at this point? Yes. Commissioner St. John.
Yeah, I would like for the staff to include a little more definition on the requirement for the septic system. At least, specifically that the leach field be inspected and that with the knowledge that cars and pickup trucks, et cetera, will be driving over that leach field to enter the garage. Unless the representation that the leach field isn't immediately in front of the garage is also clarified. But right now, it was the, Mr. Perrine said that to his knowledge, the leach field was pretty much in the area in front of the garage, proposed location of the garage. So, yeah. So I'm not so sure that codes allow vehicular traffic over the leach field. But they might allow that here. I don't.
So through the chair, the way the condition is written right now is the sewage disposal system can be assumed to include all aspects of the system, meaning leach field, all pipes, connections, tanks, pumps,
But right now,
et cetera.
right now, there's no knowledge of a future garage underneath where the leach field is under the driveway to the future garage, the future driveway.
So if he modified this site plan for, as part of his building permit and included the leach field, would that satisfy?
Well, if he shows the leach field, existing leach field, and where the garage is, and then the street, and then it's intuitive that the driveway into the garage will be over all or part of the leach field, then perhaps a code official knowledgeable of septic systems would understand that maybe there is a way to put a protection over the leach field so that the loads of, half-ton or 1-ton pickup trucks aren't, won't crush or damage or otherwise, cause the leach field to fail. So, yeah, you're right. We need the leach field outline to be shown on the plot plan. And that plot plan be also included in the inspection documents or the sewage disposal system.
So we could modify this condition simply to add that the site plan for building permits include the location of existing leach field and verification that it's suitable for driveway use.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from the commissioners? Okay, so I will close the comments and I think we're ready to, are we ready to make a motion? And before we begin that, I want to ensure that we get the conditions right. So if we make the motion as written, we would need to add with the additional modification of condition 8 to show that the existing leach field is existing, to show the boundaries of the existing leach field and its suitability for driveway use.
Well, if If it's under the driveway.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we already know that it, where he's shown it, he's already shown it as. So that said, does anybody want to make a motion? As she's drafting it up on the
Yes.
screen.
Nick is working on your modified motion right now.
Thank you very much, Nick. The power of computers and technology. As Nick is doing that, I will add that knowing that this was an item that had come up and there was a lot of interest in this, that was why we expanded. And we usually don't expand public comment period to extend the time. But I wanted to make sure that knowing that there were some strong feelings on both sides of this development and this permit, to ensure that both sides had that leeway. Obviously, that isn't always possible. Definitely on the city council side, because they already talked for 6 hours. But here, I think it's important as a community that we all get a chance to, and I think the commission would agree, that we get a chance to explain our views. And if it just takes a little bit of extra time to do that, instead of cutting people off, sometimes we just give that extra time to do that. I think it may not be the legally right way, and Guido may be coming back to me after this and saying, you shouldn't have done that, but I get to make that decision tonight, so. But I thank the commission for giving me the leeway to change the comment period slightly. Okay, you done?
Nick has made a valiant attempt at a new motion, if this suffices.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion tonight?
I'll be happy to make the motion.
Again,
I am the
you're
motion. I am
you're
the
the
motion
motion person
maker.
tonight. Okay.
Okay. I move to approve the project as proposed and to include additional language to the COA number 8 to add, modify the building permit site plan to show the leach field outline and verify that it is suitable for driveway use. Subject to findings, conditions of approval, and CEQA exemptions 15301 and 15303. I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any proposed amendments or other changes to the motion? No? Okay. In that case, go ahead and take a roll call vote on the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Herr. Commissioner Walton,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobson,
Yes.
Commissioner St. John,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Woodson.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes 5-0.
Okay, that's 2 down, a couple more to do. The next one is a review of our housing element implementation, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct, Vice Chair.
Thank you
Can
very
you make
much.
sure you-
See, and then you all leave and don't want to hear about our housing element? Oh my gosh, the snacks, you don't even need snacks. This is so interesting. This is about all of the big development that we are doing in the future. Thanks.
Good evening, Commission. Sorry I could not be with you in person tonight. Just
Guido,
wanted-
why don't we go ahead and just give it about another 30 seconds?
Sounds good.
Our audience is leaving. Okay, Guido, you can go ahead and begin now. Sorry.
Great. Yeah, no problem. Good evening. Calling in live from the exotic city of Fresno, my hometown. So just sorry I couldn't be there tonight with you guys. So we're here to talk about housing element implementation. As the commission's aware, on December 5th, the council directed staff to file the final housing element with state HCD. The city of Marina is anticipating getting the housing element certified in the next couple of weeks. We are obligated by the programs of the housing element to implement several policies and ordinances in 2024 and every successive year until 2031 to remain compliant with housing element law. Program 2.3 of the housing element directs the city to establish procedures to implement Assembly Bill 2295. I won't read through all of this, but basically it's just encouraging cities to adopt procedures to allow more housing on school district properties. There's quite a few caveats, but I'll go over some of the highlight ones. If a school district decides to do this, it must be a minimum of 10 units. The units must be in priority rented to the school district teachers and employees. And then the bill does go through a series of steps that, for whatever reason, if there's not enough qualified folks at the school district, they can go out to outside public agencies. But the focus of this is on getting more housing on school district properties. It can be built to the maximum height allowed by the city or 35 feet, whichever is higher. Must be an infill development, must follow local objective standards, and it must be an infill site, meaning, we don't want to annex a bunch of properties. It has to be within the boundaries of the city. So the reason why the state is pushing for this initiative is, as quoted in the staff report, there are thousands and thousands of school district properties that are available. And I quoted from the legislative analyst office, if even a third of those properties are developed, there could be upwards of there was a 1.3, I apologize, hold on, I don't have the number in front of me. There was thousands of units that could be built as part of the project. I can get the number later. Anyways, so this is all part of the ongoing effort to implement the housing element. And I will get you guys the recommended motion. Adopt the motion recommending that the city council adopt an ordinance amending the zoning code by adding chapter 17.51, educational housing pursuant to Assembly Bill 2295, and find the action exempt from CEQA. So that concludes my initial presentation. I cannot hear you. I cannot hear Commissioner Woodson at all.
They didn't have the mic on. So the, just, could you bring back the actual requirements one again, so I can look at that very quickly? And then, just so you know, the parking ordinance in the agenda came before the educational housing ordinance. So it's slightly out of order.
Apologize about that.
It's okay, you're in Fresno. So. And no, I'm having you bring it up because it just, we got a little bit backwards when we were looking through it because you were presenting it. And I just wanted to give the commission a chance to actually look at the requirements again.
No problem.
Since we're talking the educational side. So the question that I have with this is, how does this play into the plans that, and what MPUSD at a regional level is trying to do, since they are local LEA that would be affected by this?
I mean, they're allowed to do it by right, so it's in the similar vein as this law. So.
So are they, maybe this is, you don't know the answer, maybe it's just none of our business. I mean, are they, so 6 to 7 years ago, I think, they hadn't looked at one point, we had looked at partnering with them and using a part of Cypress Knolls to support LEA housing growth. And for lots of reasons that ended up not coming to fruition at the time. But now coming back to this, and given that we still have the kind of intractable problem of low-paid MPUSD staff and teachers and a need for affordable housing, and now we have the new AB 2295 that is being put in place. uh, Is this a time that we can re-engage with MPUSD, or does MPUSD even want to? I mean, is this an opportunity for us as Marina to help our local LEA solve some of their problems that they have for their staff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is an opportunity to get by right housing on school district property, and yeah, we can totally partner with them on this. So.
And so then that leaves my second question, and which is more of a comment, probably not for staff as much as to city council, of passing it along that from a staffing perspective, this is something that we can recommend if the rest of the commission here agrees that we would like to see that promoted, this leveraging AB 2295 from the city to the district to become a lead agency to kind of help support their growth and development.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, we're already working with them. They were one of the key voices in the Cypress Knolls community meeting we had. And then April 7th of last year, we had that joint meeting with the commission and council, and they were also present at that meeting. But yeah, we can actively reach out to them. So.
Yeah, if I could piggyback on to Guido, we've been talking with them about potential partnering in Marina Station and on a variety. They own several properties throughout the city in the former Fort Ord. So we are definitely in very frequent conversations about how to partner with them.
And those were kind of my two questions that I had going into this. Are there any other comments that the commission has?
And then to the chair, I was going to look it up in my staff report. So the legislative analyst office is quoted as saying there's about 75,000 acres of local educational facility properties, and even at 20 to 30 dwelling units an acre, that could yield about 1.5 to 2.2 million housing units throughout the state. So that's why the state's pushing this. So.
Oh, I totally get it. I mean, as the state has aged and as the demographic has changed, even looking within our own district, where the numbers when Fort Ord closed, it dropped by 60%, and that directly impacted both Seaside and Marina directly, more than anybody else. We have that capability and we have that land that exists. I had another comment and then it just totally went out of my head, but yes.
Well, my question is, let's say we approve this, align, but on page 2 of the report, there are challenges that goes along with it as well. For example, lack of expertise, lack of funding, lack of permission, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, obviously the legal procedure should come first, but are we ready to overcome the challenges that exist? And also, with this LEA properties, is it the same way that you develop, building properties there? Is it the same process as what's happening in Sea Haven or Dunes, or potentially in Cypress Knolls, or is it a different process that the city has to follow? Once it gets approved.
Yeah, so school districts are entities of the state. They could technically bypass some of our local building planning review. Usually school properties are reviewed by the Department of State Architects, but that's the choice that the school district makes. So that would be something we would have to work out. In terms of partnering with them on this, yeah, that's something we can totally work with them on. As school district folks are not builders, right? So oftentimes they'll partner with a master builder, a Shea Homes, a Mid-Penn Housing, somebody who does this all day, every day. This really is just a mechanism to legally recognize that they can do it by right, meaning it wouldn't be a long drawn out discretionary process. That's all we're doing here tonight. But I do acknowledge that, yeah, there are some barriers that the school districts will have to overcome.
Thank you.
But Guido, this, this issue, this, motion to adopt this ordinance, then this would be a modification for to our housing element or to our general plan or what?
So it's a program within the housing element. And the
Okay.
housing element is a chapter within the general plan. This is just an ordinance implementing a program within the housing element.
And this is to bring the housing element and the consistency of the general plan up to compliance with the state.
Exactly.
So it's in our best interest to go forward with it.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of wiggle room for the commission and council. Hopefully we get certified housing element in the next month. Basically, when we tell the state these programs, we kind of are entering into kind of like a contract with the state that says, hey, we're gonna certify your housing element, but you have to do X, Y, and Z. And so it's kind of like a, well, yes, you have to do this, so.
Well, I think that was my other last question that I had, which is, this is embedded, this is a subcomponent of our housing element. It was not, but as we did our numbers calculation, or as they gave us our numbers calculation, we did not include this capability within our subset of what we could provide. So this would actually count, if funding was available, development happened, and during the sixth element, this would be creditable as positive credit to our housing numbers.
That's correct, that's correct.
Thank you. That's what I thought. I just, sure, because every time we turn around, you have a new AB to give to us.
This is good.
It is good. I absolutely agree. I
Well,
think this is
just by
very
way
good.
of context for the commission, I've lost count at about 61 housing bills that have been adopted the last 5 years. So there's a lot of SBs and ABs we read in the office all week. So yes, there are a lot, so.
It's pro housing.
We are. Okay, can we put the motion up? I think. Absolutely. So somebody else is going to make a motion. You are not allowed that somebody else.
I was trying to
If
get.
you want to make the one on the next one, it
Can I
works.
second?
You can second.
I'm the official second today.
Okay. Yeah, but Commissioner Walton hasn't had a chance.
Walter, if you would like to second.
Would you like to make a motion, Commissioner? Let her make the motion first, please.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt the city council, I'll make a motion that the city council adopt an ordinance amending Title 17 zoning code by adding chapter 17.51 educational housing pursuant to Assembly Bill 2295 and find the action is exempt from CEQA per section 15061 B3 of the CEQA guidelines.
Oh, she's going to defer to you. Would somebody like to second this?
I will second. My honor to second.
We have a motion and a second. Any amendments or anything that anybody like to make? No. There we go. So can we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Jacobson,
Yes.
Commissioner Herr, Commissioner St. John,
Yes.
Commissioner Walton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Woodson.
Yes.
Your motion passes 5-0.
Now, Guido, now we have the next one, was the previous one, which is the parking ordinance.
Alrighty, this is the last one for tonight. There's another 4 ordinances I'm bringing to the county commission in the next year. This is a picture of a car in the middle of an empty parking lot. And there's a general idea within planning that parking can be a restraint upon building more housing. And so this is another mandate within our housing element. The state is asking us to take a hard look at our parking ordinance, which we've done. And to, number one, remove the covered parking requirement. We will not be changing the total number of parking spaces. Those will remain the same, just removing the covered component. I know in other agencies, this could be cause for concern. The reality of the situation is when you talk to developers, even in cities that don't require this, they do like covered parking. It helps them get their financing. And their customers like it. So this is a little bit of a removing a barrier because we're being asked to, but it kind of really depends on what the market will bear. So that's the first part of the ordinance amendments. The second part are very, very technical issues related to supportive housing. There were further refinements to state law, AB 2162. That required that we further reduce the parking requirements for transitional and supportive housing to make it be no more than 0.5, remove minimum parking requirements for supportive housing within a half mile of a public transit stop. And for emergency shelters to further give cities an opportunity to support this land use, to amend it to only require parking for the staffing levels for the shelter. So the first one's the larger one. The other two are just super minor housing element, technical, wonky housing parking stuff. So once again, it's in our housing element. We basically have to do this. And this is the recommended motion. So.
Yeah, I believe actually the second bullet, we've actually already addressed at different times when we talked about supportive housing before. So that's, I don't think that's anything we haven't already discussed here 2 or 3 times over the last year and a half. I don't have any other comments on my side. Does anybody else in the commission have anything that they would like to talk about in the parking ordinance? Yes.
Yes, I would like to propose a little streamlining of the language on 17.44.020 residential. Where it mostly the editing was to pretty much remove the covered parking requirement.
That's correct.
And so, is that correct, Guido?
That's
That was,
correct.
most of it was to do that. And so like on A, where it says, yep, as an alternative, have 1 space or 2 tandem spaces, one of which shall be a covered or uncovered. And then the rest of it was scratched out. If you just end at 10, either a 1 space or 2 spaces, period, then you've accomplished everything that you wanted without a lot of unnecessary language. And that would.
We do want to keep the tandem word though. 'Cause
Right.
We do allow
So
the
you put a
tandem.
period after 2 tandem spaces. You don't need to say that one of the spaces is covered or uncovered. If they choose to cover, that's fine.
That makes
If
sense.
it's uncovered, that's fine. We're not requiring either or.
That makes total sense.
Okay, and then on page 5, it says 1 bedroom units and efficiencies, 1 space for each dwelling unit, plus 2 additional spaces for each 5 dwelling units or fraction thereof. We don't have to talk about covered and uncovered because we're not demanding either one. It's up to, it's up to the developer.
I'm sorry, I missed because I was copying and pasting, so I correctly
Um,
captured.
Number 1 and number 2, actually.
Scratch the which shall be enclosed, covered, or uncovered.
It should read 1 space for each dwelling unit plus 2 additional spaces for each 5 dwelling units.
Got it. Sounds good. Roger that.
And then the next one's.
Yeah,
the next
that
one's
just
the same.
follows the same on item 2.
Okay.
And down to F, rooming and boarding houses, 1 parking space for each bedroom. If they
Okay.
choose to make it covered, that's fine. If they choose to make it uncovered, we're happy.
Well, no, but I have to specifically strike covered from D1 through D3.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
but,
but it seems
but you
that
don't
those,
have to add uncovered.
So we're just putting the number in and then we're removing the qualification of covered. And
Got it.
uncovered.
Got it. Understand.
Throughout consistently throughout every reference.
Yeah. And then
Got
I'm happy.
Sounds good. I understand. I'm just taking notes so I can accurately capture the motion. So,
I can make a
Well,
motion.
and I don't think the motion changed.
Did we already make
We're
the
just
motion?
cleaning up the wording.
Cleaning up some of the.
Did we make the
right,
motion?
right, right. I meant to say, no, I meant to say the wording. I'm sorry. I misspoke. So,
um, I would like to ask you, I mean, I think we are talking about the same thing, it's just that you want the wording covered or uncovered, omitted, versus it seems that based on the insertions, it's the step wanted to highlight, specifically using language.
State said take out the requirement for coverage.
So I want to ask the staff, what was the rationale for intentionally specifying this, this language? Oh,
We don't know.
okay.
sorry, what was the question? Sorry.
What was your rationale for inserting?
We're
in
adding
this-
uncovered versus deleting covered.
Yeah,
It's just a syntax error. If the commission wants me to clean it up, I can certainly clean it up. That's fine.
okay, okay.
I said we would like you to deliver dinner to us next meeting. Could we just do the same thing?
I would like pasta, please.
We don't have to do that if we keep the meeting short.
Through the chair, I think that probably just because Guido and I have been doing this for so long, covered parking spaces are historically a big deal. So
Right.
we're very used to including covered, the specificity. So I'm guessing that's probably why he wrote it this way, just because the difference
Yeah.
between covered and uncovered is a really big thing for developers. So I think it's just habitual, probably.
I agree. I
Okay.
agree.
Okay. I mean,
So Roy, it's that.
yeah, with legal terms, I mean, language matters a lot. So
exactly.
I think, I mean, we are talking about the same thing. It's just a matter of whether, by omitting it, we just let the readers interpret in their way, or by including it, we are just setting our expectations to the leader.
So developers basically are just going to have to get used to the fact that they're not going to see it, and that just means that they can do anything they want. So. Would somebody, no, actually, Commissioner Walton would like to make the motion today, this one. She does.
What did I do with it? There it is. All right, so. No, that's not it. That's it. Yes, all right. So I move to adopt a motion recommending that the city council adopt an ordinance amending chapter 17.44 parking ordinance to implement program 3.1 of the housing element.
If I might interrupt for a second, it would be great to add in your motion that you are recommending some minor syntax changes, just as part of your motion.
So can we make
To
it,
include the minor syntax changes as recommended by the commission. Thank you.
Correct. That would be perfect.
But just now? Or do I need to say it again?
You're doing it right now.
Excellent, thank you.
He is typing it in. Good that you spelled syntax correct. Okay. Is there a second to what he is finishing on the screen?
Just, this is me coming from linguistics background. So there's semantics and syntax. So syntax is more referring to grammatical
Matter.
structure. So if we are talking about particular wording, then we should mention semantics. But if you are talking about,
Change make semantics. SEMAN.
I don't know how to spell, I'm sorry.
Without an N, semantic changes.
without
There it is.
S at the end.
There we go.
You can make semantics. Oh, ooh,
Semantic amendments. There we go.
yeah.
It's an adjective into a noun.
Yeah.
Boy, we are learning tonight. We're back in high school grammar that they don't even teach anymore. Next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be diagramming sentences.
We have to say, I mean, and I mean.
Would somebody like to second the motion?
Am I allowed to second because I've been barred from making motions? Can I second this one?
Yes.
I so do.
All right, so we have an amendment, or we have a motion, and we have a I so do second. Are there any amendments that anybody would like to make to this? Welcome. See, this is why you came to Marina, by the way. And I can guarantee you that you will not be laughing as much at the city council meetings.
So this is more fun than my last commission.
Can we take a roll call?
Yes, please. Let me please do a roll call vote. Okay. Commissioner St. John,
Yes.
Commissioner Walton,
Yes.
Commissioner Herr,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Woodson.
Yes.
Okay, your motion passes by
Okay, moving on. The last few things should go pretty quick, maybe. Next item up is other items, and tonight we get the privilege of nominating and electing a new chair and vice chair. As we get into that discussion, what I want to do is provide one update. I talked to Commissioner Rana 4 days ago after the agenda was published, and I asked her if she would want to be considered for either position, and she said no, she would not. He said, my gosh, he said that he would not. So I wanted to.
But he's not here.
But he's not here, but that does not mean that he could not be nominated and could not be elected.
Right.
But then that wouldn't be fair if we did that when he's not here. So I reached out and I asked him if that was something he would want to be considered for. And he did say that he would like to pass this time around and then maybe next time. So I wanted to pass that out. That said, open the floor for nominations to the chair.
I nominate Mr. Woodson for chair. He can move from vice chair to chair.
I agree.
Simplifies his title.
I also nominate Vice Chair Woodson for the chair position.
I second.
I'm all in favor.
Okay.
A roll.
We should vote on it.
Okay, let's
Is there
take
anybody
vote.
else who would, I guess, well, everybody said my name and and I'm gonna abstain from saying things.
Gotta
Just
take
say
care
thank
of
you
that,
very
don't
much.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of,
We should make a
we
motion.
have a couple motions.
We made a motion. There was a motion and a second to a motion.
Okay, I heard I nominated, that counts as making a motion. Okay. Go for it.
And then Commissioner Walton seconded.
Said we have to nominate.
Okay,
and elect.
Okay, so we take a vote.
I'm gonna take a roll call. Commissioner Jacobson,
Yes.
Commissioner Herr, Commissioner St. John.
Yes.
Commissioner Walton,
Yes.
Vice Chair, soon to be Chair Woodson.
Yes, I guess at this point.
Okay. It's unanimous. Chair, it goes to Woodson.
Wow, thank you very much. Really, seriously, I appreciate your confidence in my ability. It's a big shoes to fill after Nancy and and Brian before that. So thank you. Next, we have to nominate and make a motion on our vice chair.
I'm gonna volunteer for vice chair.
Ooh.
Okay.
So I don't know if I get to nominate myself, but if somebody else would like to nominate me, that's.
I will nominate Commissioner Walton for vice chair.
I second.
Thank you.
Third.
Well, it's gonna be three at this point. Is there anybody else who is interested, would be nominated for vice chair? So I think at this point, we can go ahead and take a vote because we now have a nomination and a motion and a second.
Okay. Commissioner St. John,
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobson,
Yes.
Commissioner Herr, Chair Woodson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Walton.
Yes.
Okay. Vice Chair Walton, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so other items went really well. We didn't get into a big contentious fight over that, which is good because we really get on well together. And I'm really glad that we have a good commission here. I'm looking forward to seeing who our new surprise member is going to be eventually. Hopefully by the end of the month. Next item, are there any informational items from staff or from the commission? Okay, yes.
I think we had two people that left the meeting quite disappointed and quite upset, and maybe 8 or 10 that left, quite euphoric or happy. And just want to ask ourselves if we did anything wrong tonight and the disappointment that the neighbors left with.
You know, my take on that is that that's been a issue for years and has been getting worse, I guess, since the property's been empty. And I think we did the right thing. I think that that's part of being a decision maker is you can't make everybody happy all the time.
Just to add, that's one of the reasons why I asked what protected Ms. Walsh from
Right.
that development, just so that it was on public record and we did address, her issues that she laid out very well via email and as a public comment. We did have to apply code and make our considerations based on what the ordinance and the various codes are. So yes, I feel like feelings were hurt, but at the end of the day, our job is specifically to look and weigh what the applicant is asking us to do against what the city codes are. Yeah.
And go on.
I think we strengthened the requirement and clarified especially the septic system, that it's got to be more than just a letter from your friendly septic cleaner that he had, saying that everything looked pretty good. But I think we strengthened that, and I'm not so sure that leach field will pass code with a driveway on top of it.
I know tonight's my first night, and it's been a pleasure being here, but I would caution the commission against diving back into an item that's closed, at least substantively.
Yeah, what I would say is that.
I was just about to step.
Because we don't want to get back into the discussion after the fact on record. we've closed the item. But what I would say to address the upfront is that I appreciate when contentious items may come before the commission, that the staff historically here and again tonight have done a lot of all the hard legwork, which has made our jobs much easier to dig down directly into the specific points that we want to address at the commission meeting to make whatever the correct recommendations are. And that is really critical to making things easier when there are hard decisions that have to be made. Because whether it's individuals, in this case, individuals versus businesses, these same decisions have to happen, and it becomes a lot more personal when it's individuals. That's actually why I opened that's why I opened up discussion a little bit slightly longer, was to give that opportunity to try to smooth over the fact, because I knew this wasn't a business versus commission or city type discussion. And a few minutes here to try to show that we have that empathy, I think is important. And I think that's probably the thing I take away most, is that we maintain empathy to the situation, regardless of what the rules are. We just have to apply the rules. And we know that over and over again, that many times we may not agree personally with the directions they go, but that's not our job. Our job is to help enforce what the city code is and what the state is telling us we have to do. So I think this actually I think it went very well. And I think the prep work, from the prep work on, that has occurred over the last few months, because I know this was a month-long process, to getting to tonight, in the end, I think is a big win for us, because it just validates that I think we are on the right path the way we do things. Staff updates? Yes.
So Seth has just introduced himself a little bit, but we should have done this probably more formally at the beginning of the meeting, but Joseph Petta, he goes by Seth, is our new assistant city attorney with Shoot Mahali, and I always forget the third name, Weinberger. So we're super excited. He actually has a lot of land use background, so he'll be helping us specifically, and we'll be staffing planning commission meetings. So we're very excited. We're entering a new galaxy of planning commission. So yay.
Wow.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No other stuff. Guido, do you have anything? He's like, I'm gone. I'm out of here.
No, we're busy. We're bringing objective standards next time we come. We're doing a general plan update on the 21st. I'm releasing the downtown plan in the next 30 days. We're busy. We're very, very busy. So.
Okay.
Element certification any minute now.
Oh, yeah, should be getting that in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So.
Any minute, 2 to 3 weeks.
That's in planning time.
That's in planning time.
That's planning time.
Okay, I believe we have informational items is next, because it's gone from the thing, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. No, correspondence. And then, do we have any correspondence? We never have correspondence. Major project updates. No, I think Guido just kind of covered those. And that leads to adjournment. So I guess I get to now adjourn this as chair.
Oh.
Ooh. Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.